I used to think that was everything. And then I realized, well, as long as they can still track everything you're doing online, which is most of our lives these days, because we live more and more of our lives in the ether, as long as they can still do that, they can still target us, they can still throw us in jail. It's only through privacy and cryptocurrency that we can protect ourselves.
So how has it been being a crypto content creator during these crazy times? I mean, I
Crypto
understand.
content creator.
So,
Ugh.
I mean, we'll definitely go into generically how it is in these much broader times, but during this crazy pandemic news cycle, how has that specifically affected being a crypto content creator?
Well, I mean, I had a dramatic shift on my channel in the last 6 months where I'm so terrified of what's happening with privacy in the world
Hmm.
right now, and no one's talking about it. And it's kind of terrifying how much of our freedom we're giving away, how much of our privacy um, is just being violated right now. No one seems to care. People are of their own volition opting into this stuff. And so I just started looking into more of this stuff, and I realized more and more, like, because cryptocurrency, I was like, I used to think, okay, once we have freedom of money, that's the end game, you know, because then we're free, then the government can't steal our funds, they can't use it as leverage against us. I used to think that was everything. And then I realized, well, as long as they can still track everything you're doing online, which is most of our lives these days, because we live more and more of our lives in the ether, as long as they can still do that, they can still target us, they can still throw us in jail. It's only through privacy and cryptocurrency that we can protect ourselves. We can keep our actions to ourselves and keep living relatively free lives. So I started realizing, like, even with cryptocurrency, what would it take to shut it down? Is it like a single switch that the government would have to flick and then they could just immediately filter certain types of packages and realize which people are using cryptocurrency? And I just realized how bad privacy was. And I realized how little I understood how the internet works. I started delving into it. And so because I started looking into that, I got this huge influx of people onto my channel who weren't crypto specific, but were just very much interested in learning about this kind of stuff too. So
Yeah,
I
it's all
find,
kind of
like,
the same thing, right?
yeah, and I hope that that's a way that, like, if these people are coming onto my show because, oh, well, she talks about privacy and teaches us things and that's valuable, I hope that they get a lot of value from me teaching them about crypto stuff too. And that's really what I want ideally. But I also find that unless I'm very careful with the type of content I put out, I'll get like a ton of subscribers, then I'll put out a video that's completely out of their comfort zone and they'll go like, whoa, what? That isn't a thing about how my phone is spying on me. That's something about, Dash. What is Dash? What is a privacy coin? Like, they don't understand stuff. And so they kind of freak out and then they unsubscribe. And so I have like big fluctuations where all these people
Waves.
will come in and then I'll put out a video, there'll be like 50 unsubscribes immediately. And I'm just like, oh, okay. These people, that was not in their comfort zone. So I like, especially right now, I'm talking about coronavirus. I've been worried about this since
Hmm.
January, because I went to Hong Kong at the start of January, and so I was in all of these Hong Kong threads, reading what's going on there with the protests. Because again, super important issue that no one's talking about anymore. But they started talking about coronavirus super early on, and I was kind of freaking out. Then I started looking at the charts and the exponential growth, and everyone there was freaking out. And state protesters started protesting about shutting the borders because China still hasn't done that in Hong Kong. And so I was keeping up with this and following it and making videos. And now people are coming to my channel who are like, oh, she talks about coronavirus. And then suddenly I'm like, also, there's this anti-encryption bill.
And then they leave.
And they're just like, what? What? What is your channel? So maybe I'm having a bit of a branding crisis right now. I've always just talked about things that I think are super important. But
Yeah.
I think it may just take people a while to realize what that mix is. And
Well,
right
one
now,
thing.
I was just going to say, like, right now with coronavirus, like, one, I'm terrified of the overwhelm at hospitals. I think the people who are not worried about this are not looking at the numbers, and they need to take this more seriously. Two, just because you take coronavirus seriously doesn't mean that you should be arguing for the government to come out and give all these mandates. And I think that, like, we're in a scary territory for our health right now, but we're also in a terrifying territory in terms of the economy, in terms of these authoritarian dictates that are going on all around the world. You have, like, India has just closed down as well. The police there are beating people with metal poles if they break these curfews. States all over America are shutting down entire states, basically because the CDC screwed up testing so bad we were unable to isolate and track where the growth of this was. They've just put blanket rules on entire areas that don't need to be closed down. And it's going to completely financially devastate huge amounts of people. I mean, the way that all this has been handled is terrible, terrifying and terrible. And I think that the government's just putting these authoritarian band-aids on things right now. And it's going to be hard for us to take back our freedoms after this. I think it's going to be a scary time.